Welcome everybody to the last talk of today. I will try to keep it short and interesting. So the title is Community-Owned Communication Infrastructure, but that is just to sound fancy and smart. I really want to talk about the project I've been working on, and that is also supported by Claros, so we're very happy to be part of the family. Who of you has used Discord before? Raise your hand. Okay. Who of you enjoys using Discord for Web3 stuff? Raise your hand. Nobody. Okay, cool. You've just proven our business model. Thank you very much. We are building a better Web3 native Discord-like experience with an app that we call Common Ground. That's a little agenda for this talk. I want to talk about online collaboration. How do we do it today in this Web3 space? And you can read many headlines about how Discord is really not the favored application in the Web3 space, how generally it's pretty broken. And I think we can say that running a Web3 community today is pretty frustrating because there are no good tools for it. Many use Discord, some use Telegram. Overall, these are Web2 applications that don't really cater to our needs as a space. I think we can formulate it like this: we are stuck in a local maximum, meaning that Discord is just good enough such that we can use it, but it comes with a lot of, broken features, and you need bots to retrofit. We had some sort of DAO tooling movement in the last bull market, where a lot of people, I think, got hyped about, me as well, but it turned out that this DAO tooling stuff just wasn't good enough to convince enough people to switch away from Discord. So we believe we need to build something vastly better than Discord in order to convince the Web3 community to move over to a new tool. What's the problem? I mean, if you look up what Discord means in the dictionary, you might be surprised. Discord means disagreement, dissonance, and conflict. So it's like if Moloch would have built a messaging application, he would have probably called it Discord, right? So no surprises. Obviously, Discord has no native Web3 integrations. It's opposed to Web3 values as a company. It's a privately owned, shareholder-driven company, and it just doesn't align with the values of Web3. The DAO tooling stuff, I mentioned it requires very specialized knowledge. It's not very Web2 friendly. It's not inclusive to Web2 communities, and the idea of governance in DAO tooling is very narrow to vote with tokens, right? But we think governance is really much more. We believe that communication is in fact the atomic unit of coordination, and so we need to fix our communication stack and then progressively move up the value stack until we have this perfect place where I can do a Claros dispute right in the app where I'm having a dispute in. Obviously, we see some nice bots that were developed, I think, by Claros, but a bot is still not a native integration in a chat platform, right? Here's a sort of little econ 101 chart, how we believe our Common Ground fits into with the other tools. It's like two axes. On the horizontal axis, we have chat apps that are insular, so that have an isolated silo for an individual team, something like Slack, Microsoft Teams, WhatsApp. And on the other end of this axis, we have easy to join, easy to discover, open platforms, like Reddit, for example, where you can easily find a community. And on the vertical axis, we have solutions that are, for informal communication, something like Telegram, something like Reddit, and we have solutions that are cooperative, so that really promote, working together as a group. And so we want to be, of course, in the top right corner here with a platform that has easy to discover, easy to join, transparent communities, and embedded in a platform that promotes working and cooperating together as a group. That's sort of the holy grail that we want to reach. And we are baking Web3 primitives right into this application. So I want to talk a bit about the interesting Web3 primitives that we see out there. It starts with proof that you are a real human in this community, right? And so this is another place where we really look forward to integrating what Kleros and the Proof of Humanity team have developed. Easily prove that you are a real person, that you're only one time represented in this particular community for governance votes, for airdrops, for any kind of interaction that requires some level of trust. This is a really powerful primitive that we're excited to integrate. Reputation, cloud in your community becomes really interesting thanks to on-chain stuff. Connect your wallet to show your on-chain history. How long have you been in crypto? Have you been doing, some interesting Bitcoin donations maybe? All these sorts of things can help you to build reputation in such a space. And if you combine that with a proof of humanity type uniqueness proof, it becomes even more valuable because your reputation really accrues to only one identity and becomes more valuable thereby. Something that we're also excited about is the ability to offer communities to earn money. Right? Today, many communities struggle with money. Moderators are typically unpaid. We've seen that in Reddit, where Reddit suddenly decided to shut down its API or monetize it extremely, right? And at the same time, the moderators on Reddit are entirely unpaid. So we think if we give communities easy ways to monetize, they will have, maybe a Gnosis-safe multi-sig wallet to then distribute funds to the important members of the community. Another interesting thing we're working on is community-owned accounts. You know it from Discord. Somebody creates a Discord community and they are like the owner of the space. They are like the super admin. And they can always run that community. They can shut it down, they can throw out the moderators. So with Common Ground, we want to have a system where the entire community is owned by the community itself. There's also something where we think Kleros can come in really handy, because if the community owns a space, the community can also have disputes about who should be a moderator in the space, right? You can have democratic governance votes about who should have elevated authority in this community space. And the same, or it folds into the last element here, the let your community decide kind of primitive, so integrate governance like Snapshot, Kleros, and other kinds of tools natively into the app where the community lives in order to make governance much more seamless, right? We also build Common Ground in a way that is really accessible to Web2 people, so we don't require you to connect a wallet the moment you open the app. This is something that you discover progressively as you get more and more involved into the platform. We don't require you to understand what crypto is in order to start using Common Ground. It's a really soft onboarding, and we believe that can help down the road when more Web2 people become interested in what we're doing. That's just a little slide on this community owned accounts idea. What we do is we make a community an NFT on the blockchain, and in that NFT we have metadata that says these and these accounts are moderators in this community. And by having that information on chain, you can subject it to governance votes. Right? You can have governance vote about changing a specific parameter in the NFT, and thereby have a governance vote about who should be a moderator in that community. I think that's pretty unique and something that Discord will never be able to replicate with a bot. Another thing we're excited about, for example, is giving every community a safe wallet. We call it community walls. Because from that moment on, the moment you create a community, you get multi-sig. You don't even need to know what it is, but you can deal with stable coins, you can generate income as a community, and all that money accrues to the community itself. I find that a really, really powerful idea that I'm looking forward to integrate. Okay, some words on some, future craziness that I really like to wax about. It's this idea of a community hyperstructure. That's sort of where we want to go with Common Ground. The idea of a community hyperstructure is this idea of an interconnected, network of diverse communities, all connected in this big structure of Common Ground. It allows for cross-collaboration, shared governance, fluid exchange of information and value, and it transcends all these traditional boundaries of nation-states, power structures, in order to build sort of a better, maybe even post-nation-state world where millions of people can sort of earn money together, govern systems together, infrastructure together, and so on. So that's sort of the dream. We found out that in order to bootstrap this hyperstructure, we want to do it through onboarding ecosystems. So we've thought long and hard, how do we bring people to start using Common Ground? And there are, network effects that are really hard to find, right? These Web 2 tools are so good at this network effect stuff. It's really hard to bring people to switch. So we figured out that by making Common Ground available as a white label instance to Web3 ecosystems, like layer 1, layer 2 blockchains, we can sort of divide the network effect problem into smaller problems. And we just onboard one ecosystem at a time by giving them a white label version of the Common Ground platform. We integrate their blockchain, we integrate their identity system, and then they can just bring all their communities onto the platform. They have their own Discord-like chat app, but everything is Web3 native and with their blockchain and their tokens and so on. And we onboard one ecosystem after another, and then at some point we're at this, we have a strong enough network to have a pull effect towards the rest of the world. And we have to report that we've already signed 3 ecosystems, and it seems like there is more and more demand for this thing. So it seems like a really cool growth hack. That's sort of the visualization, how we look at it. Like this hyperstructure, we have, at the core of it, we have communities that have their own sovereign space. A community is embedded in one or more ecosystems, and then all these ecosystems live in this Common Ground hyperstructure, Common Ground platform. And in fact, we've organized Common Ground as a cooperative. That's another really interesting similarity with Keras, because we believe that the cooperative is a really interesting structure for Web3. There are a lot of similarities to work with. So the way we've structured Common Ground is that we have a DAO, which is a non-profit entity based in Switzerland. It issues a governance token, and then next year we will incorporate a cooperative, which will be a European cooperative. That's a special kind of legal entity type in Europe. And it's going to be like 2 chambers. There's the DAO and there is the cooperative. The cooperative will have an exclusive license of the Common Ground IP of the platform. And it's going to be the cooperative that's going to host the platform, and the cooperative will be fully owned by the users. So all the data, all the servers, all the infrastructure is going to be owned and governed by the actual users of the platform. Right? That's sort of our dream. And with the governance token, there's going to be shared decision making between the users of how to monetize, what to do with all this network that we're building up. We think that even down the road, this cooperative could do more things, like it could acquire financial licenses that can be used by different ecosystems on the platform in order to provide financial services in a regulated manner. So I think we can do a lot of interesting things with this cooperative down the road. That's it. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, happy to answer them, but I'm not offended if you just want to have a beer outside. So.
I have one actually. I know because I was checking something on Twitter, and you have a lot of news where people add community notes. So you have aggregated version of news, and you mentioned media and I think for news making, and how you think about like an article, like a piece of news, having a community, where you have an aggregation of different facts. Because like news have been so biased since COVID, at least, even though it's very obvious. And so I think the ability to aggregate not just opinions but to aggregate facts to make the news more objective is quite a powerful tool. It's quite powerful on Twitter to have the community notes and to have the amendment. But I think the way the app works could really work for the newspaper business. I mean, for the newspaper newspaper.
I agree. And you're not the first one to have that idea.
That's a shame.
No, well, no, I think it's a confirmation that it's probably a good idea, right? So, yeah, I agree. I would love to see some sort of use curation communities, for example, on Common Ground that sort of, you know, that make transparent what their biases are, because I don't think there is anything that doesn't have a bias. It should just be more transparent.
If you look at the community notes, it's not just bias, it's actually correcting the facts, you know, so writing now, you know, the generative AI, it's very easy to write things. The difficult thing is to agree on the facts, you know, now the facts themselves are challenged, and people just, I don't think, it want to ignore some of the facts, so I think that's where the power of the community, you know, that can be, rather than just like different opinions, you know, and have 100 wrong opinions.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
If you want to start such a news community, let's talk, because
and I just had the idea, so
cool. Thank you very much.
Okay.
One last question. First question: can I try basically? Like, so you have Luxo as a community, for instance.
We have Luxo as an ecosystem.
As an ecosystem, so it's possible to go there and try.
Yes and no. So the Luxo ecosystem will launch early December.
Okay.
But yeah, it's going to be its own ecosystem with a white label version of the platform.
Yeah.
But the way we're building these white labels is they are not silos.
Yeah.
It's still one big platform, so it's just sort of a custom view on the platform with sort of a curated community list.
Okay.
So yeah.
So right now, if I want to try the platform,
right now you just go in your browser to app.cg and you can totally use it.
try it. Okay.
Exactly. And what's really cool is we've built it as a progressive web app, or PWA, which is sort of this new trend in crypto, I think.
Okay.
It allows you to install the application both on your desktop device and your mobile device, like a native application. So on your phone it's really just on your home screen,
I see.
but it's outside of the App Store and you can do all the crypto shenanigans in the world without Apple stopping you.
Thank you. And the other question is more about like the structure and the long-term view about it. I agree with the idea of community-owned and more democratic aspects, but I think sometimes you can have also some drawbacks of that. Thinking about governance, for instance, you can have apathy, like some people token order are not voting, or sometimes there is a really specific risk parameter or design point for experts, and there is no point that everybody is going to follow that. So how do you solve this problem of like completely flat structure? I think cannot decide on everything and own everything.
So I think that's a very deep and interesting question. Thank you for asking. So by virtue of being a cooperative, there will always be a board, and the impact of the members is really about controlling the board. But the board will always be there in order to make decisions, and they have to make decisions because otherwise they are liable. So the board sort of makes sure that there is always a party in place that will react to things that need to be reacted to. It's not just, hey, if the members don't vote, nothing happens. No, there is a board. But if the board starts to abuse its powers, the members can throw the board out. Another thing that I personally look forward to is that the users elect sort of delegates who do specific things. Like, for example, Common Ground right now runs a lot of, like, we collect some personal data about users. We try to keep it as little as possible, but there is some personal data involved, which is stored on a centralized database. So a big question to me will become, who has access to this database? What is happening with this data? And I think users should elect delegates from the community, people they trust, and these delegates can always check the server logs. They have like privileged access into the system to ensure that data is not used. So that is, I think, another interesting way through delegation and experts to work. And then lastly, another element that we have is that we have taken this governance token and split it into two buckets, a 49% bucket and a 51% bucket. And the 51% bucket is exclusively reserved to the users and communities of Common Ground. But it comes with a fine print, which is that these tokens will always be sort of circulating among the users and will always be handed out based on activity on the platform. So these 51% will always be allocated with the most engaged users on the platform. So if you're super active in, one time on the platform, you might have a lot of influence in the governance. But when you stop being active because you're taking a vacation or something like that, you might lose some of your governance power and somebody else gets it because they are more active on the platform. We haven't fully figured out the details of this allocation algorithm. This is going to be tough. But the idea is that we want to avoid a situation from older DAOs where some whales have 50% of the tokens, they don't care about the project anymore, and no governance vote can pass anymore because nobody votes on stuff. So that's sort of why we've done that.
That's super interesting. Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
Thank you.
Thank you.